Hey there guys, the PC guy here with the news in tech and gaming from the week. This week's highlight is definitely the RTX 2080 Super launch. This card is going to be replacing the regular 2080. It has an MSRP of $749 in Europe and $699 USD in the United States of America. And it is supposed, like I said, to be replacing the 2080. It's not sold anymore. And well, while it is a bit, performance-wise superior to the 2080, it is a bit disappointing. I'll cover it in the second video about this card in particular. As you can see here, they compare it to the 1080 Ti and the 1080, but not to the 2080. This is for good reason. While this card is, like I said, faster than 2080, it is a mere 5-6% faster than the 2080 is. So while it is nice that the Founders Edition price is lower, it is higher performance. It is not as good as a leap from the baseline to the super as, for example, the 2070 was. I'll cover that in the second video, going into more detail about why this is both a good and bad launch, so I won't take more time in this. It's out there, it's for sale. The partner boards are also out, so if you are looking for a card in this price range, well, there you have it. Intel just had an investors call where we can typically get some insight at how the company is doing in terms of sales and revenue and all this sort of thing. And well, it's not all that great. It's not horrible either, mind you. It's not like Intel is going bankrupt or anything, but their data center sales are down 10% compared to last year, as well as their DIY, let's say, just loose processor sales like the 9900K, 9700K, etc., are about the same level or at the 1%-ish difference compared to last year. This, however, is being kept up because the CPUs themselves are more expensive and not because they are selling the same amount. So they are selling a bit less, but because they're more expensive, the revenue kind of balances it out and it stays at about the same level. There was no mention in this conference call about specific market segments, no mention of, for example, the AMD competition that is going on right now. Obviously, they are trying to impress the shareholders, obviously, and the investors. They cannot give the impression that they are being beaten right now, naturally, so there was no mention of that. But we do know from Intel's memo a few weeks back that they are taking the AMD competition very seriously, and they do consider AMD to be a force to be reckoned with. Again, 10% in a company that big, while not in danger of bankrupting them, is quite a sizable amount. So it does seem that Intel is starting to feel a little bit the effects of a more competitive market. AMD, in turn, is not very happy with Steam. Steam hardware surveys is a survey, like the name says, that comes out every few months, where Steam kind of publishes the hardware specs of the people that play games via Steam and have opted in to participate in the survey. Now, according to AMD, these surveys favor Intel a lot, and they do not clearly represent the market share that AMD holds. Now, AMD's position has been growing, however, not very convincingly, let's say, according to these surveys. Now, the claim is that these surveys count, for example, internet cafes and that sort of thing that are very popular in certain parts of the world, like, for example, in Asia. And if, for example, let's say 10 or 20 people log in with their own different Steam accounts on an internet cafe on the same PC, they will be counted as 10 or 20 different people logging in, period. So if that PC has Intel hardware, which they often have in places like that, Intel will be having a massive amount of representation more, as if more people are playing with Intel hardware. Well, in fact, it's more people playing, yes, but in the same computer. So the number of systems using Intel would be lower according to AMD. Now, this has been a known issue with Steam and the surveys. It's not a new thing, but now that AMD is gaining traction in the market and they would like to have that representation a bit more, truthful, let's say. This is because not only does it give potential buyers another source of information that they can look at, see what people are buying, and maybe influence their purchase, but also because this information is often used by game developers to optimize their games for specific systems or specific manufacturers. If the representation of AMD in the survey is low, it means that game developers will not focus as much on making things run as good on AMD as they do on Nvidia or on Intel. So the fact that this representation is lower does hurt AMD in the long run. If the games are not well optimized for AMD, people will not buy AMD to begin with. So that is definitely a valid concern from AMD's point of view, and I do agree with that. However, it's difficult to see how Steam will fix it in the future if they will implement, for example, a filter on their results that will block out everything that comes from the same machine and count it as one. It's difficult to tell, and well, we'll see how Steam responds to this in the future. T-Force has released the first liquid-cooled SSD in the world. It's an M2 SSD. It is, well, liquid-cooled, and traditionally you don't really see a liquid cooling in storage solutions like SSDs, or in this case M2 drives. However, these drives do get hot and they do benefit from being cooled as far as keeping up higher transfer speed goes. So it is easy to see what benefits it might have. However, I am not sure it will take a lot of traction in the market, considering that the current ones we have perform well enough. However, in the enthusiast market, you never know. People always try to squeeze the last bits of performance, and while storage speeds might not be an exception. It is the first of its kind for now. We'll have to wait and see if there will be other types coming out. In any case, I could not see an actual pricing or when it will be truly available yet. So that is all still a bit up in the air. And well, it is, if nothing else, interesting to see how water cooling is becoming more mainstream and is to be found in more products and a bigger variety of products. A couple leaked benchmarks have been spotted, specifically about AMD and possibly a new Threadripper series, in this case Threadripper generations 3 and 4. They are codenamed AMD Vermeer and Genesis, and they are supposed to be the, well, next stepping in the Threadripper lineup. Like all leaks, treat this with a grain of salt. It's nothing confirmed, nothing really solid. It's just a benchmark that was spotted of a specific CPU with a specific number of cores. It does not match up anything that AMD has announced right now, and it is supposed to be Threadripper. This would be coming out, if this is true, around 2020 or 2021, and possibly with PCIe Gen 5 and DDR5 memory. This would possibly require a socket change if this is all true. However, given that the timeline is to probably 2021 or something like that, AMD would have fulfilled its promise of preserving the sockets that they are currently using for as much as possible and until that date. So, well, again, treat it with a bucket of salt. I just thought it would be worth mentioning that these have been spotted, considering there's been a lot of expectations regarding the next generations of Threadripper. The last piece of news is not really computer related, so to speak, although it does affect computer companies. Apple has bought Intel's 5G technology. Intel is developing 5G technology for mobile networking, and not a bit ago, a few months ago, they announced that they were no longer pursuing it, and they were trying to auction off that technology that they had already halfway developed to whoever wanted to get it to continue developing, and Apple has taken up that offer. This will reduce Apple's reliance on Qualcomm for its networking capabilities, and well, 5G was facing some problems, so we will have to see how it is solved and if this technology will be available on the iPhones anytime soon or in a few years. So it's all a question of when, because like I said, the technology was not fully developed, so it's probably unlikely that you're going to see it in the next generation of iPhones, but well, it's coming. Now, these have been the highlights for the week. Like I said, I will put a separate video about the 2080 Super. Unfortunately, as usual, I cannot really offer you benchmarks and all that sort of thing, or an actual shot of the thing, because I have not purchased it, and yeah. In any case, I will do an analysis and a bit of a commentary about why this is both a good release and a very bad release in more ways than one. So this has been Attic PC Guy. If you find these new episodes useful in terms of summing up what has happened in the week, in case you don't have the time to follow up with each individual story, give us a like, consider subscribing if you enjoy the content and you like to see more of us, and I will see you guys next time.